Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi discussed the latest developments in the region. Palestinian factions Hamas and Fatah meet in the Egyptian capital, Cairo. And Egypt announces that Bidaya initiative has provided over 39 million services since its launch. Well, good evening, and you're now watching the latest updates in Egypt on Qnews. Moving on for the latest developments in Egypt. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has hosted Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi to discuss the latest developments in the collaborative efforts to stabilize the region. The meeting underscored the urgent need for intensified international efforts to achieve an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and Lebanon. Both leaders emphasized the importance of facilitating the delivery of humanitarian aid to prevent a large-scale humanitarian crisis in the region. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has followed up on the government's efforts to provide a conducive environment for global investments. In a recent meeting with the Minister of Communication Amr Talat and Lieutenant General Ahmed El-Shazli, head of the Armed Forces Financial Affairs Authority, President Sisi reviewed the government's efforts to benefit from the ongoing progress in the technological and information infrastructure in Egypt, given the significant importance the state places on the communications and information technology sector. A meeting between Palestinian factions Hamas and Fatah has begun in the Egyptian capital, Cairo. Hamas, led by the deputy chairman of its political bureau, Khalil Haya, and Fatah, led by its deputy head, Mahmoud Al-Alul, are meeting to organize Palestine's internal affairs. The meeting also aims to discuss managing border crossing and addressing health, relief, shelter, social development, and educational issues. Egypt's ongoing communications with various parties, especially Israel, the US, and Hamas, aim to maintain negotiations, prevent escalation, and achieve a ceasefire. And to comment on Egypt's efforts to deliver aid to Gaza Strip, we're joined by expert at Al-Ahram Center, Mr. Bashir Abdel Fattah. Mr. Bashir, good evening to you.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us. And how do you view Egypt's ongoing support since October 7th to achieve a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip?
From day one of this crisis, Egypt is keen on ceasefire and resuming negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians in order to put an end to this dilemma. Egypt are moving on two ways. The first one is to deliver humanitarian assistance to Gaza Strip, not only from the Egyptian people or the Egyptian government, but from the entire world as well, through Al Arish airport and the Rafah crossing point. In addition to that, Egypt is hosting negotiations, and it is also a vital player in the mediation between the Israelis and the Palestinians in the negotiations in order to put an end to this crisis. All the time, Egypt overcome obstacles and delays from Netanyahu and the Israelis, but it tries to overcome all the obstructions in order to reach an agreement between the Israelis and the Palestinians for ceasefire and resuming the humanitarian assistance to Gaza, reconstruction of the Strip, and also resume the negotiation for the Palestinian state, because Egypt all the time believe in truth that the Palestinian state on the borders of 1967 is the solution for all confrontations in the Middle East.
Right. As for the humanitarian aspect, or from the humanitarian aspect perspective, how do you perceive Egypt's efforts to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza since the beginning of the crisis?
Since the beginning of the crisis, the Egyptian effort is great. Egypt all the time opened the Rafah crossing point in order to deliver the humanitarian assistance to Gaza Strip. Although Rafah crossing point is for cars and trucks, not for persons, not for trucks or something like this. Although Egypt all the time is trying to keep the corridor and the Rafah crossing point open all the time for the assistance, for the medical support to Gaza Strip. In the same time, Egypt refused the Israeli strategy to use starvation as a weapon in the confrontation with the Palestinians, because it is illegal and is all the time is condemned from the international community and the international food program. So Egypt insisted on condemning the Israeli strategy in that sense. Starvation should not be used as a weapon in the military confrontation. So the Egyptians are keen on delivering assistance from day one to this moment in order to help the Palestinians to overcome this nightmare.
Right. We are aware that Egypt is the foremost provider of the aid in Gaza. Now, what should the international community do to ensure the unobstructed flow of this aid to the Gaza Strip?
The international community is considered to save the delivering of this aid. As we know, the Israelis are putting obstacles and delays in front of delivering this assistance, not only from the Israeli army, but also from the settlers of the settlements of the Israelis. They all the time, they are trying to destroy the tracks or the assistance to the Palestinians, because they think that it's used from Hamas and the Palestinian resistance against the Israeli army. So the international community and the United Nations has to protect this assistance one way or another. They should put pressure on the Israeli army not to put obstacles in front of delivering this assistance. In the same time, the international food program has to play a vital role in that sense. We know that the Israelis put obstacles and delays, but the international community, especially the United States, has to play an important role in that sense and put pressure on Netanyahu.
Indeed, Mr. Bashir Abdel Fattah, expert at Al-Ahram Center, we thank you so much for being with us and for your fruitful insights. And back to our bulletin, where the Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli has affirmed that Egypt is the only country enjoying security, stability and sound governance amidst the ongoing turmoil in the region. He mentioned that several projects such as the development of Ras Al Hikma will be announced in the coming period During the weekly press conference, Madbouli stated that the world is experiencing an exceptionally critical phase, unlike any that have been seen before, which he described as a state of heightened uncertainty. This has resulted in a 10% increase in global oil prices within a week. He emphasized that the Egyptian government is facing significant challenges in this current period. Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli has emphasized that President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's speech on the Egyptian Military Academy conveyed the nation's strength and its capacity to safeguard its borders. During the cabinet meeting, the Prime Minister referred to President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's directives on the necessity of pursuing comprehensive institutional reform. These reforms aim to ensure financial discipline and sound governance across various establishments, thereby strengthening the Egyptian economy's ability to tackle the diverse challenges currently facing the whole world. The Permanent Committee for Following Up Egyptian-African Relations has held its regular meeting headed by Ambassador Abu Bakr Hifni Mahmoud, the Deputy Foreign Minister, with the participation of representatives of ministries, agencies and national bodies. The meeting discussed ways to enhance bilateral relations with Congo and Kenya, reflecting the keenness of the Egyptian political leadership to achieve mutually beneficial outcomes with its African partners. Egypt's new ambassador to Tunisia, Bassem Hassan, has met with Tunisian Minister of Foreign Affairs Mohamed Ali Nafti and submitted a copy of his credentials. Ambassador Hassan highlighted the extent of Egyptian-Tunisian relations and the keenness of the Egyptian leadership to strengthen these relations in all fields. Hassan has also expressed his aspiration to continue his nation's strong working relationship with Tunisia. Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and CEO of the Egyptian Space Agency Sharif Sidqi have emphasized the importance of the Egyptian state places on developing its space infrastructure. Sharif Sidqi presented updates on the progress of the space city facilities, the current status of the localizing satellite technology, and details on the establishment of a joint stock company for manufacturing satellite components. He also discussed the creation of a company to market the agency's products, along with the launch of an automotive platform to enable users to browse and purchase satellite images. The Egyptian Health Minister Khaled Abdel Ghaffar has announced that the Bidaya initiative has provided over 39 million services since the launch. The initiative has reached nearly 6 million beneficiaries in the past 4 days. Nearly 14,000 people benefited from the program's effort to empower women through training. 21.8 tons of food supplies were distributed, reaching 34,955 families. 267 educational seminars were rolled out, reaching 122,210 participants. The Cabinet has approved a draft resolution to establish a special free zone under the name of Kingdom Linen Company to improve linen spinning and weaving industries in the Sadat city. The company aims through its project, which will be built on an area of approximately 52,000 square meters, with investment costs approximately $60 million, to provide more than 500 job opportunities, export no less than 100% of the annual production volume, and rely on a local component of no less than 30%. Egyptian stock exchange indices recorded collective increase at the closing of Wednesday trading session. The market capital hit about £2,172 trillion, with transactions amounting to £30 billion. The main market index increased by 1.05%, and the small and medium-sized stock index was up by 1.73%. The all-embracing EGX 100 index was also up 1.68%. Well, that brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here is what we've been covering. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi discuss latest developments in the region. Palestinian factions Hamas and Fatah meet in Egyptian capital Cairo. And Egypt announces total number of services provided by Presidential Bidayah Initiative has reached 39,562,332 services. Well, this brings us to the end of our bulletin. Remember to stay updated by following Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Qnews EGY for the latest developments. Many thanks for watching.